All right, we're back with our video sit-downs with the candidates. Now we turn our attention to the Mason County District Court Judge seat in that race. George Steele is the man across the table from me. George, start out with telling us about you and why you choose to run.
All right. Well, I am George Steele, and I am running for the Mason County District Court position. The reason I'm doing so is I do very much care about this community. I have a lot of experience both in my law practice, and I've also been the municipal court judge of the city of Shelton for the last almost 9.5 years. I think I have a lot of experience, and it's my position I actually bring the most judicial experience to this race, and I think that's important. I've also been practicing law for longer than I would care to count, but I've done lots of things. I've been in all levels of court in the state through the Washington State Supreme Court. I've also had some federal work, including one case in the Court of Appeals, Ninth Circuit. And I've had a chance to observe lots of judges. I've had a chance to put what I've observed into practice in my court, and I think that my experience would serve the people of this county well.
So this is a pretty full race when you look at the people who have filed for it. So what differentiates you from the others?
The main thing that differentiates me is experience. And what I mean by that is, first off, I'm the only candidate that is a regular judge of a court. One of my opponents is a pro tem judge and does a fair amount of work in district court, and I also pro tem in district court as well. To my knowledge, I don't believe the other candidates involved really have any judicial experience to speak of. But I'll qualify that to my knowledge because I haven't done a lot of research on them or what have you. And what that has given me a chance to do is really, again, use my experience for the court to do things to make the court run more smoothly, more efficiently, ensure justice is done. And it's also given me a good perspective on what a judge needs to be, which is primarily someone who is dedicated to seeing the law is upheld. And that goes for whether or not the law favors a defense or favors a prosecution. It has given me a lot of insight into challenges for the court, and I know that's be some of the other questions I think you're going to be getting to. But it also has put me in a position where many times I've had to make decisions I didn't want to make, and that goes both ways. And judges have to be able to do that. And judges also have to be able to keep an open mind. To maybe their mind's going to be changed when they hear all the facts of a case. Oftentimes it is. And also I think it's important for a judge, and I've tried to do that, to show respect to the litigants, show respect to the attorneys, and respect their challenges and things along those lines, because I'm also, my other part of I'm still a practicing lawyer. And so I also am in their shoes quite a bit. So I think those are things that are really going to set me out. What it comes down to in one word is experience.
So clarify something for me. You're municipal court judge. You're a practicing lawyer. If you become a district judge, would you have to give that up? Because
this is a full-time position, I will be closing my practice if I win this race.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify because you talked about challenges and issues. What are the biggest issues and challenges that you see facing the district court?
Well, I'm going to expand your question slightly to the court system. And there's two aspects to it that I think are significant challenges. First is in the criminal work the court's doing. A municipal court where I am, our jurisdiction is really criminal cases and also traffic infractions and civil infractions. So we don't have a civil caseload or anything like that like district court will. That'll be a change if I win this position. However, in the criminal part of it, we share a lot of the same issues, and that is one of the biggest things we have right now that's a problem in this county is lack of adequate jail space, lack of adequate jail staffing. There's been a lot of discussion over it. I've been involved in those discussions as well, and I want to be real clear. I'm not suggesting I want more jail space because I want to incarcerate everybody. Far from it. I don't like putting people in jail. I hate putting people in jail, actually. But the fact of the matter is, it's the threat, a credible threat of jail, that keeps everything else credible as far as the sentencing alternatives like our community service program and municipal court, If we don't have a credible threat that a person will suffer sanctions if they don't comply with it, then the people are not going to comply with it. And that's been my experience that I've observed on the municipal court. So that's the biggest challenge, I think, facing the criminal justice system, because right now it is a challenge for misdemeanor cases and gross misdemeanor cases, and actually, for that matter, from what I understand, Class C felonies, to be able to be booked into the Mason County Jail. And I want to be real clear about something. I am not blaming the Sheriff's Office for this. If there's no room at the end, there's no room at the end, and that's really what the situation is coming down to. I think where I can help with that, and I have been, is in various places I've spoke, primarily the criminal justice meeting we have every month, is to make it real clear that is the primary thing we have to focus on and get the word out that this is a problem the community is going to have to address. So that's the biggest on the criminal end of it. As far as the civil end of it, and again, municipal court doesn't have a civil caseload other than traffic infractions and non-traffic infractions, but the legislature is expanding the jurisdiction of the of the district court for civil cases to $100,000. And I think there's going to be more, you're going to see more filings in district court as a result, and the district court will have to make sure that the district court is up to taking care of that caseload. So those are two challenges that come off the top of my head, but in the criminal world, the main challenge is lack of jail space.
What about the top priorities if elected? Have you thought about that?
Well, I have. First off, my top priority, the foremost priority any judge has, is to make sure that their courts are conducted fairly by the law, that everybody has a chance to be heard, that due process protected, people's rights are protected, and that the correct decisions are made. And I will do the best to my ability to make sure that happens. That's really the top priority. Beyond that, however, I think, and frankly, I will do that continuing as a municipal court judge as well, but is to advocate that we need to get this problem with the jail situation fixed so we can have the courts be able to make their orders be enforced when the need arises for that. That is one of my top priorities.
What was brought up to me in a different interview was about the video systems that they're utilized. I mean, you have one in your municipal court, correct?
Correct.
Would you like to see us move more towards that than have the defendant in the courtroom?
I would like to see for routine hearings more use of video, and the reason is simply this, and it's more, I won't say exaggerated, but it's more pronounced with the city before we had the video situation. You have a situation before we had the video capacity where they could only bring 2 defendants over from the jail at any given time. So one of the Shelton police officers had to go out and pick those people up. The jail had to search, they had to cuff and get them ready for transport, take them to the city hall. There's always security issues there. I had one person escape out of the courtroom many, many years ago. Didn't get very far, but still it happened. And then they have to be taken back, and then they have to be searched by the jail. And so that involves more correction staff. That involves police officers as well when they could be out enforcing the laws, protecting the public, that type of thing. And we have limitations everywhere, including police, as far as how many we have and what their capabilities are as far as the number of officers, things like that. So it's better not to have them have to spend their time transporting people back and forth. We have a relatively good system. We do have some problem that's going to need to be addressed, quite frankly, in municipal court because of the fact the audio portion of it, when we have interpreters that have to appear by phone because like a fresh arrest we don't have an interpreter available, our system doesn't work very well as far as the defendant's comments in their language being made audible to the interpreter so they can actually be interpreted. That's a problem that we're struggling with right now. I'd like to tell you I have a great solution for it, but I'm still working on it.
I had a question. Security in the courthouse. You said you were on the courthouse security committee, is that correct?
Yes.
How how important is that to, I mean, do you feel that the courtrooms as they are safe?
I think the district courtrooms are relatively safe. There is the full-time security and with metal screening and all that. Municipal court, no, it's not that safe. I'm not saying it's dangerous either, but we don't have a lot of security, and we're having some issues right now. I didn't plan on going too much into as far as some budgetary issues with the city. And it'll be questionable what security we have is going to be, we're going to be able to retain. So it is a very concerning thing. I did have a case recently where I had a person taken into custody for contempt, and he was taken into custody, and during the search he had a loaded weapon, nothing chambered, but a loaded weapon. And you know, I don't like people bringing firearms into a courtroom. It's illegal for starters, but I don't like it. But again, it's a resource thing as far as, you know, where's the money going to come to pay for it.
You talked about the budget situation with the city that you want to get into. What about the county and the potential impacts the county budget might have on district court? Have you looked into those impacts? And
I'm aware of those impacts. I've communicated with the district court staff in the past before I decided to run for this position, because I know them, because I've, you know, also been a judge pro tem for the district court. And I know that there's been challenges where they've had to, you know, work hard and fight basically to defend their staff, and it really comes down to ability to carry out the core missions. There's not a lot of fat in my municipal court budget. There's not a lot of fat in the district court budget either, from what I understand, and that's going to be a challenge. But at the same time, I don't believe the courts can be cut, should be cut, to the point where they're not able to carry out their core functions. If we had either municipal court or district court just staff that we didn't know what to do with and try to find them something to do, then maybe cuts would make some sense, but that's not the situation. And so it's always going to be, you know, a tug of war, I think, between the council and the court, but we have to make sure the courts are able to be adequately funded so they can carry out their core mission. I want to be clear, though, that district courts or municipal courts do not get to say, you will do this or else. You know, there's a lot of people with control over it, and the best thing we can do is advocate for what we know we're going to need.
so, final thing that I want you to do, George, is tell everybody why you are briefly, why you're the best person for this seat.
Okay. Well, it really comes down again to one word, I think: experience. And that experience, again, it's experience practicing law for over 30 years. It's experience being the municipal court judge of the city of Shelton for 9.5 years. It's seeing how different courts do things, and I've always made mental notes throughout my practice, things I notice judges do that work, and things that judges do that don't work. And experience is going to be really the thing that really sets me out. I don't believe any of the other judicial candidates for this position have the level of experience that I do. One of them does regular pro tem time for the district court, and I think may do some other things as well. But when it comes to being an actual judge of an actual court, I'm the only person in that situation. Additionally, that experience, as I said, carries with it insights into how to do the job and how to be creative. One of the things I did in the municipal court to encourage people to get to court without having to hold them on bail when they're having a problem with that is offer them a furlough, which means you're in jail, but I'm going to temporarily release you. It just so happens your report back to jail date is 5 p.m. on the date of your next hearing, and if you show up at the next hearing, we're going to have a conversation where you're going to have to go back. But if you don't show up, you better show up to the jail. If you don't do that, you could be at a risk of being charged with a crime of escape. And I want to be clear, and I make it clear to people when I grant furloughs, judges do not file charges. But there's a risk, and there have been a couple of occasions in my tenure as a municipal court judge where people have in fact been charged with escape. That has had, as long as we have some credible threat of incarceration, has had the impact of having people who were problems appear. So I think what it comes down to again is experience, I have the most, I believe, of any of the people running as far as the judicial experience, and I think that's what sets me apart.